All right, let's move along. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. We've got the Pitt Panthers 7.5-point home favorites, 47.5 the total in this game. One of those situations where, look, Pittsburgh plays Wofford, Cincinnati plays Eastern Kentucky. Both teams play FCS foes last week. So how much can you really take away from both of those games? From what I saw from Cincinnati, there's a lot of concern I had about the Bearcats coming into this season. And look, again, they didn't play anybody either last week, but I was impressed with what I saw actually from this Cincinnati team. Scott Satterfield taking over, of course, as a head coach of the Bearcats. And Emory Jones, we talk about this, theme so many times where sometimes your quarterback goes from lesser and lesser schools and, he ends up transferring here, transferring there, and he doesn't always get better, even as he goes from school to school. Look at JT Daniels, by the way, for Rice as a perfect example of that last week against Texas. Sometimes when you bounce around and you transfer from multiple schools, maybe you're just not that good, a quarterback. But I was impressed with Emory Jones. We know he was at Florida for those couple of years where he's got the athleticism, can run with the ball, but decision-making, he had that 13 interception season in 2021 at Florida, which wasn't very good. Arizona State, he had an up and down year there. But now here he is in Cincinnati, and man, he looked like a dynamic playmaker. 4 incomplete passes, threw the ball 23 times, 19 of them complete. So only 4 incomplete passes, 345 yards, 5 touchdowns, 66-13 victory over Eastern Kentucky. Now, again, you have to factor in who the opponent was. So, how good of a performance was it when now you're going on the road and you're facing a FBS team that's historically under Pat Narduzzi, had a pretty good defense, especially the defensive line. I can't count how many times we've thought Pitt's defensive line loses this guy, this guy, this guy. Where's their pass rush going to be? Where's their ability to stop the run going to come from? And every year they kind of reload at that position. So this is going to be a taller order now for Cincinnati in terms of can they block, can they protect for Emory Jones? And he needs that because he's had those issues with interceptions in the past. You look at Pitt, they got the job done, obviously, last week against Wofford. In that game, they ended up having a pretty solid – I'll be honest, I think to me it's an addition by subtraction at quarterback. Now, how good Pittsburgh's going to be at the quarterback position with Phil Jurkovec remains to be seen. And can he stay healthy for a full season? It remains to be seen. That's been a huge issue with Phil Jurkovec, the Boston College transfer. But the one thing he does have is I think the O-line is still a work in progress. But, hey, I think Phil Jurkovec, even with an O-line that's a work in progress for Pitt this season, can't be any worse than the Boston College O-line he was behind for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's the reason why they got him hurt and got him injured. So, Phil Jurkovec, though, is a nice experienced addition. I like the guy. I think he can play. As long as he's got a good, well-blocked and protected O-line in front of him, I think he can still go out there and be an efficient, effective college football quarterback. And I'll certainly take him over Keaton Slovis. That guy doesn't do anything for me, Keaton Slovis. I'd like, see ya. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out is probably what I would have said to him after he was with Pitt last year. Let's be real, though. Pitt is still trying to find that surefire quarterback to lead this offense, post Kenny Pickett era. And they're finding that, it's pretty difficult. Slovis didn't pan out last year. And it's work in progress with Jurkovec, but I still think if Jurkovec is healthy and the O-line is steady, he can be more productive and effective and lead this team to better offensive success than Keaton Slovis did last year for Pitt. So that's the way I see it here going into this season for them. As far as the run game, we see Rodney Hammond leading them there. Cincinnati, defensively, again, very good last week, but let's see if they can keep that up here against this Pittsburgh Panthers team. Pitt's not a team I'm looking to lay points in this range with very often. That's just the way it is. But the problem is I don't know how good Cincinnati is. Cincinnati just walked all over Eastern Kentucky. And yes, it was impressive putting 66 points on the board. And Emory Jones looked as good as he's played at quarterback, in anywhere. Florida, Arizona State, Cincinnati put together. Maybe not a better game from Emory Jones than what we saw against Eastern Kentucky. But factor in the opponent. Factor in now that you're going on the road for this game. Factor in that now you're playing a much better defense here, the Pitt Panthers. So let's see how he fares in it. I don't have a strong feel on this game, but at more than a touchdown, I'll give a slight lean to the Bearcats side, plus the 7.5 probably lean under the total as much as you see 66 points for Cincinnati and as much as you see Pitt putting up a decent number against Wofford. Let's see how they fare here. And both teams basically facing a step up in competition here this week. What do you think here, Conor? Cincy Pitt.
Yeah, I did not have a ton for this game because, like you talked about, they both beat up on some scrub schools and they both looked pretty good. I don't know what to make of them. You mentioned, Emory Jones. I saw enough of him that I don't know, but maybe a move to Cincinnati is good. And it's one game, it's 1 week. But is Cincy maybe, this would be big if they got to win. A lot of people down on Cincinnati weren't going to win a ton of games this year. So this could be one that they could get. One thing is Pitt, I think, is always solid at home. You talked about Narduzzi, always has a pretty good defense that comes to play. And yeah, can Phil Dracovic stay healthy? I thought when he was healthy, he could look good at times at Boston College. And you mentioned the bad offensive line he had to deal with there. I think this game could be close. So I'd have to lean. I think it's just a little bit too money. As much as I Pitt here at home, I think they win just over the touchdown. I can't be on it.
I think it's a fair number, and it's one of those games where if Pitt's less than a touchdown, I'm more interested in Pitt. And now that they're above, they're laying more than a touchdown. And there actually has been a slight trickle of Cincinnati money because Pittsburgh was 8 earlier in the week. Now they're down to a 7.
I get it.
Yeah. So I think it's a 1-score game. So I definitely lean to a Cincy here in this one.